Start meeting. Share better. Please enter your access code followed by the pound key. Please wait. Please enter the reference number followed by the pound key. Enter the pound key to the most. Please wait while we prepare your files. Press 6 to fast forward for 1 minute.
I'm calling up from Gup.
How are you? At all? No. He's on this call somewhere, and so is Steve. So now we have two of them watching us. Tonight should be an interesting call. I am going to cover basically business versus mythicism. I'll tell you where that's at in the book in a second. But first, we're going to talk about the Reach Out program. And I will be talking about this for a while. We've had it out there for almost 3 years, and it was very successful. And it's not that it's going away, but I want to make it better. So I'm starting a whole new list. So if you're on the old list and you want to go on the new list, or if you're not on the list at all, then send me an email with all of your information, your name, your phone number, the state that you're every week or two. And I'll send it out to just the people on the Reach Out program. And then who knows what other ways that we can think of before the year's out that maybe we want to use it for that also. So that's the reason for the big change in the Reach Out program. So get it to me now. I hope to get the first one out next week. And I like to have at least 100 people in that first one. And so far we have probably about 40, I think. So give me those emails. So that's the Reach Out program. Kay, you want to come up? I got Kay here to talk about the seniors call this Tuesday. So go ahead, Kay.
Yeah, hi, Charlie.
Hello.
It's good to be on your call.
Good to have you.
I wanted to tell everybody about our seniors call. And it's this coming Tuesday, which is the 15th. And it's at 11 a.m. And we gather together about 20 minutes before so that we can say hello to each other and give our name and show our interest in being on the call with each other. It's Sue Silver and I will be the presenters. And it's called the Seniors Call, but it can be for any age. We started out with it just being for seniors, and we realized that the material is really for everyone. And actually, we welcome members speaking up about their experiences during the call, and we want as many people as possible to talk about what they have experienced in their life and what they are moving forward into. There's no reason because of our age that we should sit back and put our feet up on the table and just sit there and try to smile. We have to move forward. I find the members who speak up are more comfortable sharing their stories on this call than on any other call. So please come and dial in, and I look forward to all of you being on the call. The telephone number is 425.
And also, the recording for this call, if you do want to go back and listen to this call again, we do have a recording, and you can dial 530, for instance, and it has business versus mythicism. And the reason that I want to bring this up, and we have talked about this in the past before, but there is a reason why I want to bring this up. And that reason is socialism. It seems like that's the latest craze in this country, socialism. It's absolutely incredible because nobody ever hears about, right now, Venezuela, how bad that is because of socialism. It's a crime how these people are down there right now with the inflation and there's no food and there's no this and there's no jobs and there's no nothing. I don't get why people love the idea of socialism. In the past 100 years, over 100 million people starved to death from socialism. because one of the first things they do is that they take control of the food. All branches of the food, from the farmers to the distributors, the whole 9 yards. It's not a good system to be under. It's never worked, and yet the younger generation today love socialism more than any other government, and it's going up each year. So they are brainwashing us to say that business is bad and mythicism is good. I've never seen any society be a good society without business. That is the competitive, business is the competitive development, the production and marketing of values that benefits others. That's the reason people get into business. You can drive down any downtown street in America and tell if that town's doing good or bad by just looking at the downtown business district. If the stores are open and people are running in and out of all these stores, the town's doing good. If half the stores are closed, the town's doing bad. That's the difference between capitalism and socialism. You can't have a great society. You can't have a good society. You can't have a happy society under socialism. It's impossible. So it's basically business ultimately flourishes in the absence of mythicism or dies in the presence of mythicism. Mythicism is the creating of problems where none exist. We all know, we heard that almost from day one here. But business is the solving of problems wherever they do exist. Mythicism represents stagnation and death, and business represents growth and life. Mythicism is non-business, business is non-mythicism. Now, I know that we talk a lot about business here and starting businesses, and I know a lot of you have no desire whatsoever to start a business, and that's absolutely fine. But are you running your life like a business? If you run your life like a business, so basically, as I'm talking about business here, you can substitute that word and talk about your life. If you run if you had to rate your life as a business right now, would you be in the black or would you be in the red? That's the way that we're going to change this world. Not just neo-think people starting businesses, but neo-think people running their life as a business. That's going to be the difference. But then a whole bunch of people say, well, how about all the businesses out there now? It's like crony capitalism, and they're all taking payoffs and all this. And that's absolutely true. But when they first started those businesses, they weren't looking for handouts, and they weren't looking for deals. It's because the government came in and threw too many regulations, and they regulated them to death. And every time that they start a new regulation, guess who has to pay for that? The business owner and us. And how do we pay for it? Because the business owner has to spend more on making his product or service because of regulations, and he has to put it into the price to make up for it. So that when we go to buy something, we got to pay more for it. It's a trickle-down theory, and it comes right to us all the time. Government raises taxes, we're going to pay for that. Government raises corporate taxes, we're going to pay for that because they have to increase the price. Every time something goes out, whether it's through government or whatever, we end up paying the price. The common folk, middle class, we are the ones that get killed all the time. But these businesses didn't start out that way. But right now, it's hard to tell the difference between business and government. And if socialism comes in, they're just going to take over the businesses. Now, to me, I would shut down if I started a business, and let's say I started that business 30 years ago, and now I have thousands of employees all over the world, or at least all over this country, and I'm doing great, and I'm making my money, and people are making money who's working for me, and the product or service that we're selling is really good for everybody, and the government comes in and takes it over, I will dissolve it right away. That's a disgrace that they can come in and do that, yet they do it with every socialist government. They come in and they take over businesses. And with that, how do they know about business? They never produced or created anything in their whole life. But that's what's going on out there. That's the mythicism. And it's been going on since way back, thousands and thousands of years ago. There's neo-Jews, there's attackers. They are envious people. You know, it always cracked me up when there's riots in the streets, and normally it's in the cities when it happens. You don't see it in small town America too much, but it does happen. But usually it's in cities. And they start burning buildings down. And they start, and it's amazing to me, the first thing that they attack are businesses. Businesses who, you know, and then these people burn down their own businesses in their own neighborhoods. And I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing that for? It makes no sense. Because the government has convinced us that business is bad and government's good. Government can create jobs. Government, the only jobs that they create are jobs for the government. And who has to pay for them? We do. And what do we get out of it? Nothing. You have to look at government as a business. Now, is government creating jobs? Is government making our lives better? Does government take out more out of society every day, or do they put more into society every day? That's a pretty easy answer. All government does is take. They take, and they take, and they take. They put absolutely nothing into society. So that's where we are. And that's what the country wants. I mean, it's absolutely, I can't believe that people actually want to take away our freedom, whatever freedoms we have left, which isn't many, and just turn this into a socialist government. Our dollar will be worth nothing. Inflation will go through the roof as if it hasn't already. And we'll just fall. America will be totally gone. It'll be ancient history. And we will have no freedoms, no jobs. It's disgusting how it's the total opposite of what we're striving for here. If we don't have business, we don't have life. It's the highest evolution of consciousness, responsibility, and morality is business. You can't start a business unless you're integrated. You have to be integrated. You have to be a thinker. Because when, you know, some of us here right now or on this phone right now, and they're trying to open up a business. And when you try to open up a business, you're doing it by integration, because you have to do a lot of things that's not your essence to start your essence. Say that you have a service that you want to get out there. Well, you know, any kind of service. But you have to go out and market it. Are you a marketer? Do you know how to market something? Do you know how to advertise? Do you know how to work social media? Do you know how to get out of your comfort zone to maybe go to the local Better Business Bureau, or to go to the Chamber of Conference and start marketing yourself? Do you know how to do all that? Do you know how to answer the phones? Do you know how to talk to people? Because you got to do it all in the beginning. That's where most people fail, because they're not doing their essence. So you might have to go months of doing things that you're not comfortable with just to get to the fun part of your business. It's very, very hard to do. But then if you can get all through that, in fact, I had a guy call me today and says, I'm having a really hard time. He says, I'm so excited about this, but I'm having a hard time with certain things. And I says, project curiosity. Find out as much as you can about the things that you have to do to get that business started. And yes, you're going to be out of your comfort zone totally, but you got to do it, unless you have the funds to hire people to do these things for you. And most of us don't have that money up front. And we're trying to keep the cost down of our business, because then also you have to get business licenses and pay the state all these ridiculous amounts of money to do this and do that and everything else. But it is the highest evolution of consciousness. No other animal is even remotely able to function on a business level. Only conscious minds can. Because the essences of business are fully integrated honesty, responsibility, integration, objectivity, long-range planning, effort, discipline, thought, and control. Now, do you think government has any of those things? You think a socialist government has integrated honesty or responsibility or integrations, or they think objectively and they think of long-range planning and they have discipline, thought, and control? They have none of those things. There's not a politician in the world has any of those things, whether they're a socialist politician or a democratic politician. Doesn't matter. They don't have that. That's why they're politicians. Why do you think they hate Trump so much? Because Trump was a successful businessman. These people haven't been successful in anything except lying to us, except convincing us that they're the almighties and that we are nothing, and we follow them. But they haven't produced, they haven't created anything of value. I would love to see Nancy Pelosi start a business. I would love to see Chuck Schumer start a business. I would love to see any politician but Trump start a business. Does everybody remember George McGovern? Most of us are old enough to remember George McGovern. That was back in the 60s or 70s. 70s, I believe. And when he retired from government, he didn't open up a business. He bought a resort, I believe it was in Connecticut, that was there for decades. A resort, beautiful place, high class, rich people went there. And he bought it and he opened it up, and the business just crumbled like within 6 to 8 months, I believe it was. I'm not sure of the time period, but I think it was under a year, but he had to shut it up. And he said at the end, he said, I had no idea what it took to start a business. And yet, this man for decades told businesses how to run their business through regulations at him all the time. So these people who have no idea how to run a business are telling business people how to run their business. So what happens? The business guy has to say, well, you know what? These people don't know what they're doing, but it's costing me money. It's costing me jobs. So they have to. So where do you think lobbyists come from? If you're in a big business today, you must have lobbyists to protect your own business. And that makes these guys now do something very uncomfortable, make deals with the government. It's the only way that they survive. Bill Gates had to do it. Back in the 90s, he fought the government. And he won. He beat the government at their own game and won. Cost them millions of dollars to defend Microsoft, because they were saying that Microsoft was, I just went blank on the word, a monopoly. And he won the case. The day after he won it, he hired lobbyists. He knew he could never do it again. That's how business people fall into these cracks, forced by government. And yet they know nothing about how to run a business. They don't have the discipline. They don't have the marketing experience. They don't have anything. Their job is to destroy people who are producers and who are creators. These guys become the bullies out there because they have the law behind them, because they make the law. Otherwise, they're so weak. And have you ever seen a happy politician, which I was talking about the other day? Did you ever see anybody who's happy who's a politician? If they knew about neothink, it would scare the living hell out of them. Because, first of all, they really couldn't comprehend it, because it's all about honesty and love and facts and figures and science and everything else that's good in this world. And that to them is scary. And they would do everything in their power to take this down. And that's what they do with every business out there. I had a lady on the phone here about 6-7 years ago, and I told this story, I think, many times, and I still have to tell it again, though. And she called up and she wanted to buy the first book for $140. As you know, that's the first book price. And she says, but I'm having a hard time getting the money together. And she she says, but there's a reason for that. I said, well, go ahead. It was kind of a slow day on her phone, so I could take a little more time. And her and her husband, they were living in California, and their dream was to have a small dairy farm. So they bought this dairy farm, and they started a whole new business for themselves. And the first couple of years wasn't bad. They were turning a profit, and business was getting better. And then all of a sudden, California goes in this crazy thing with all of these regulations. And she said, literally almost overnight, there was somebody from the government on their farm almost every day of the week. And she says, these guys walk onto the farm in their suits and ties. She goes, this is a dairy farm. And they tell her all the regulations that they had to do. It made no sense, most of them. These guys didn't know. They just said it has to be done. It's the law. She says it got so bad over the years that now the government had to buy the farm because they lost so much money. It was unsustainable. And now they were living off government. The government was paying them a salary each week. So now they can't even sell the farm. She's on the phone crying to me because they can't afford $140 for a book. It just totally, I would imagine that they're not even in business anymore or whatever. That's what socialism does. That's what government. I&O Publishing Company, which they started to actually print their own books here at NeoThink. And they used all of the NeoTech and NeoThink literature. And they followed their own words. And it became a very powerful and a very good printing company. But then they say, up until now, the most widely circulated system of ideas has been the Holy Bible. As we talked about on past calls, the Bible basically is ideas that are mystical, dishonest, malevolent, destructive, and for centuries have provided the philosophical ammunition to diminish happiness and drain prosperity and neo-cheat productive people on a grand scale. That's what the Holy Bible has done, and we followed that book for centuries. But by contrast, neo-tech cosmic power benefits all honest people. Its ideas are objective, honest, malevolent, productive. Neo-tech provides the practical tools to eliminate mythicism and neo-cheating throughout the world while enhancing prosperity and happiness for everyone. In other words, someday after they'll you know how like they have like a Better Business now, like on the storefront, I'm a member of the Better Business Bureau. Well, eventually they'll have a sticker like that to say that they are members of the NeoTech Business Society or something like that. And that would have to be very strict, that everything is run for the purpose of what the business was for. And, it's like that good housekeeping seal of approval. Business people, when they start out, they don't start out to rip people off. They don't start out to sell you the product way overpriced. But it's that evil corporation of government that really has intertwined so much in it that it is hard to tell the difference between a business person and a government employee. It's incredible how the deals are made, and in the meantime, we're going to pay for all this. It's a shame it's that way because it does make capitalism look bad. But the point is, they don't understand that that's not capitalism. Capitalism is when businesses give you an honest day's, basically, they either give you a product or a service that is good for you, it's a good product, you pay for what it's worth, they aren't overcharging you, and they stand behind their product. That's capitalism. That's why it was always successful no matter where it went. It doesn't go successful once government gets in there. So every day we hear people talk about, we have like 40 representatives, I think, in the House right now that actually said that they are socialism. In the United States of America, when we were kids, you would have never thought that. In a million years that America would have anybody who was a socialist or a communist or any other ism out there except for capitalism. But that's the way it is. Because when a business person starts, because business people create values through intellectual efforts involving the widest range integration of facts and knowledge. There are successful growing businesses always require honest long-term planning combined with constant integration of time with effort. Few people have any idea or appreciation of the constant, hard-driven effort and difficult integrations required for a businessman to create and maintain honest, value-producing jobs for others. It's a constant battle for a businessman. I mean, especially now with the technology going crazy the way it is. How many businesses have fallen off? Like I just moved up here to Rochester, New York. And when you drive around Rochester, all you see is these big old buildings of Kodak. Because up here they had tens of thousands of jobs for Kodak. Because it started here. Now they still have jobs here, but Kodak has fallen off the map. They didn't keep up. They didn't keep up with the changes of the world. And a lot of businesses will fall apart on that. And they haven't, and now they're starting to move again now a little bit. But mainly, when something like that happens with a business that's very successful worldwide, that has tens of thousands of employees, once the guy, say that you start a business and 40 years goes by. You were in your 20s when you started. Now it's 40 years later and you want to retire and you built this very, very, very successful business and you stayed ahead of the competition and you had a lot of money and you had a lot of employees and you were very proud of that. But let's say that you had no kids. You didn't have anybody to pass it on to. Well, then you have to go out and hire other people. And those people might know their stuff, but they didn't put the hard effort into starting that business. They never started the business. And after a while, they start getting that white-collar hoax. And the businesses start to fall down. Like DuPont. Frank R. Wallace talks about it all the time with DuPont. At one time when Frank R. Wallace was there, it was the best company in the world to work for. It was also the best company in the world to invest in. They paid dividends every quarter. And that all fell apart. DuPont fell apart. Kodak fell apart. Xerox was falling apart. And many, many others because they just didn't keep up. Mainly because the people who started those businesses aren't around anymore. It's very difficult to keep up in business. That's why you have to be integrated. That's why if you're not going to start a business, act like you're starting a business. You're starting your life. Get integrated. Because if you start to run your life like a business, then you understand what a business person has to go through. Because you have to become integrated. So for you to just say, you know what, I'm retired, I'm not going to start anything else, but what are you going to do? You're just going to sit around? You're just going to sit around and read these books and that's it? Why don't you take the books and put them into your life? You can still do that and make your life the business. Your life will improve. You probably will live longer. You'll be more organized because you're doing many days and you're keeping up with everything. It's an incredible chance for all of us to benefit on business, whether you're going to start a business or not. Put NeoThink into it. It's a great way to run your life. And people will notice. We have to sell ourselves to people every day. So why not sell yourself as a business? Yeah, because I sold for 30 years. And people said, I could never do that. I could never sell. And I said, well, you know what? Neither can I. What do you mean? What do you mean I don't sell? I said, all I do is sell myself. Oh, well, that's. I said, no, it's not different. I said, you have sold yourself. You sold yourself to your wife or your spouse, right? You sold yourself to have friends. You sold yourself to get jobs. So we can all sell ourselves. But what we're selling is and that's the question. What are you selling? Is your life good? We don't need everybody here to be a successful businessman to attract people here. What we need is all of the members to be integrated and be successful in their own right, living that good life and showing it and feeling it. That's what attracts people. We don't have to all open up a business, but we have to be successful. And the only way that we can do that is to run our life like a business. Get you out of your comfort zone. How many people didn't sign up for the Reach Out program because you were afraid to make a call? You were afraid to contact a stranger. But if you were doing mini days, if you knew the Self-Leader program, you would be the first on the phone to start calling up people, to build your business up, build up your contacts. It gets you out of that. The worst thing that we can do as an integrated thinker, as a near-think person, is to be stuck in that comfort zone. We came here because we couldn't get out of it. I haven't been in the comfort zone in a long time here. And then every time I did, something else happened, which would get me out of it. And I'm not in my comfort zone now. Anybody here, try and fill the shoes of Steve Fagan. It's impossible. And yet that's what I'm trying to do. And it's a challenge, but it's pushing me forward. It's making me think more. My integrations are getting stronger. But it's something that Steve always said, take charge. And that's what I've done. I've just taken charge. And believe me, it wasn't easy. But that's what we must do. We must take charge of our life because it's ours. It's not anybody else's. It's yours. It's your essence. It's everything. It's your soul. It's the way you feel about things. It's the way you look at life. All that is your business. Be proud of who you are. And say, I'm in the, people will ask, well, what do you do? Well, you know what? I'm in this society called the Neothink Society, and I'm a self-leader. And say it with pride. And have your chest stick out, and just say, hey, have that quiet power about you. People will notice it. And you don't have to have a job for that. You don't have to own a business for that. But have your life in that kind of an order. It's incredible to do that. And every day when I go out to the mailbox and I have checks in there waiting for me because of my life coaching business, it makes me feel good. Because I'm doing what I want to do. And it's great to walk into a bank in my jeans, and that's about as dressed up as I get anymore. I wore a suit and tie for 35, 40 years out there in those corporate days. Because I was an accountant before I was in sales. And now I wear a tie. In fact, at Steve's wake a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, I've got this person I put on a tie in about a year. So it's changed, man. I just go out in jeans now, and I'm, depositing checks, and it's my business, and it's who I am. And then the other part of it is that I'm a mentor here now, and now I'm even a bigger mentor than I was, and because I just took control. I'm doing what I always wanted to do, but never thought I could do it. And it was a lot of hard work, but that's how you run your life like a business. I had to run it when Steve first asked me to do the active membership calls, and I was one of the first 14 mentors, and me and him took on the Paris call on Sunday nights. It was funny because Steve had somebody else lined up, because I was still fairly new back then, and that guy backed out because his wife was going to have a baby, and he didn't want to interrupt that time. So as soon as he backed out, then Steve called me at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and he never would call me that early. And he said, do you want to be the mentor? And I said, yes. And he told me a little bit. He says, well, we'll talk later today. But as soon as I hung up, I started shaking. I said, why did I say yes? It like petrified me. I didn't know if I was good enough at that time. Obviously I was, but I didn't know it yet. But Steve pushed me. he took charge and said, you're on this call now with me. And that first night that we ever did the call, I was, thank goodness there wasn't all that many people, because I did go back and listen to the recording not that long ago, because I saved the first one. I said, whoa, I have improved. Definitely have improved. But if he wasn't pushing me, I pushed myself. And that's what you have to do, because I knew, because when I came here at 57 years old, my life was in ruins. I just got off of another relationship that I didn't want to end, and I was down in the dumps. I was working, but I wasn't making much money, and I really didn't care anymore. And all those things were happening. And I said, so when I got Mark's letter, and I told this a lot too, but every time I look at it, I always look at it a little different. When I got the letter, I just looked at it for a couple of days. I read about half of the letter the first night, and I threw it up in the bureau, and I said, I don't know about that. But it bugged me for a couple of days. Because and I said, why is this thing bugging me? And I sat down, and it was Thursday night, and it was supposed to be, mailed in or called in by tomorrow. And I said, this letter is different. Let me read the rest of it. And I read the rest of it, and I'm all pumped up. And I'm saying, I think this just might be it, because I tried everything before that. And I knew at that moment that if I didn't do this, I was never going to do anything again in my life. So I sat there and I said, all right, I'm going to do this. And if it's half right, if just half of those, of what Mark put in that letter was right, I'm going to study the hell out of this thing. So the next day I called up, I ordered the book. They said, and I asked them, how long does it take? They said about 30 days. And it was funny. Exactly 30 days later, the book comes in the mail. And I open it up and I start to read it. I'm just giving like a real Reader's Digest version of it here. And I read it for maybe 20 minutes. And I closed the book and I danced around the house because I knew I found it. At that time, I couldn't tell you why, but I knew this just saved my life. It was just, when you're 57 and now I'm 68, it's like, how many more chances do I get here? And I knew that this was my last chance. So I took it, and I dove into this. When I started reading this, I just dove into it. And there was nobody else to talk to. For a whole year, I just read books. And I learned that there's more in these books than you think, because when I read because back then we got the Inside Secrets as the first book. So I went back to Inside Secrets because I was waiting for the next book. And I read the Inside Secrets for about 20 minutes, and I said, whoa, did I even read this? And it hit me like a brick wall. These books are loaded with tons of information. And I looked at it differently, and I said, I gotta read these books differently, because obviously I missed a lot on just these 20 pages. And I'm thinking, look at all, this is, I have 4 books here that I read. And that's when I realized I had to start studying. So I started to study them, just like Steve started to study them. And I didn't know who Steve Hagen was then. But it was like the two of us was meant to work together, because we both took this right from day one. And I knew that I had if I didn't do this, once I realized that this was the real McCoy, I knew that I had nothing left. And I knew I was never going to get I was desperate for this. And that's how we have to get sometimes, because a lot of us here are not 20 years old anymore. Most of us here are not 20 or 30 years old. This is our last chance to make a difference. This is the chance to leave our mark on this world, to leave a legacy for our families. You don't have to become famous. You don't have to become rich. But you have to stand for something. You have to show your kids and your grandkids. When Grandpapa and Grandmom died, I tell you, they were proud of their life. And I've really learned a lot from them, because they just took pride in what they were doing. And they were very honest. And when they gave you their word, it was kept. Wouldn't you like to leave that legacy for your grandkids? That's what Near-Think can do for you. My kids look at me totally different now. And they listen better. Because they know that what I'm doing is very, very important. And you see the difference that has come over me in the last 10 years. That's why we do this. That's why I say run your life like a business. Because now it's you standing up, maybe for the first time in your life, standing up for yourself. It's a great feeling. It's scary. You know, I never stood up for what I believed in all those years before I came here. You know, because I knew I was different. I knew that people didn't listen that well to me because they didn't understand what I was saying half the time. So I just kept my mouth shut. And I was going through life like that. But I was getting nowhere because I wasn't being me. I wasn't being the Charlie Moore that you know now on these calls. If you were to see me 15 years ago, you would be shocked of how much I've grown in those years. Because I'm still shocked when I go back and look at it. But I earned it because I worked hard. And I knew I had to save my life. Because I really believe if I didn't join you, I think I wouldn't be alive today. I really do. That's what it can do for you. That's why I want to cover this business for a couple of different reasons tonight, because we have to keep this country free. We have to keep this world as free as possible. We have to stay like that's the only way that we can have a good life. You can't have a good life under socialism unless you own that business, and still most of your money is going to government. We have no control left. I like having control of my life. And this is the first time in my life I ever had control of it because of the mini days. That gives you the control. So now I'm doing what I want to do. I'm doing it at the pace I want to do. And right now, yeah, I'm on the phone a lot all day and I'm busy as hell, but I don't care. It's what I want to do. And I'm running my life like a business, even though I do have a business here with the coaching calls. But also I'm running my, I guess, mentorship with Neothink as a business. So I have to call these people back, and I have to do this. I have to send the reports into Mark and Steve Rappel for all these calls. I have to do this. I have to do that, and some of that's not my cup of tea, but I got to do it because it's part of who I am now. That's what Neothink does. So I don't care if you're 10 or if you're 100. You can take advantage of these. You know, I had a guy call me up today on the phone. I was not familiar with him at all. And he said, I've been buying these books since the early 90s. I said, wow. I said, that's a long time. I said, so how can I help you today? Well, I bought a whole bunch of books here, and they're all the same books. He said, they all say the same thing. I said, really? That's how you feel? He goes, yeah. I said, wow, that's a shame. That's what I said to him. I said, that's a shame. But what do you mean by that? I said, let me ask you this. You bought all of these books and you haven't learned anything from them? And he says, well, I've learned some things. I said, well, let me ask you this. Are you happy with your life? Well, no, not really. I said, well, then you obviously didn't learn. I said, are you doing many days? No. I said, do you know the self-tutor program? Well, he says, somewhat. I said, well, can you name me the 7 steps of the self-tutor program? Well, no. Do you think, do you have integrations? Do you think in pictures? No. I said, so basically, you've been buying these books for over 20 years, and you have done nothing with them. And there was just dead silence on the phone. I said, that's a shame. I said, you have no idea where you could be right today if you worked on these books. If you took these words and took them off the page and put them into your DNA. I said, you wasted all that money. And then he said something that I didn't know, that I couldn't understand because he was like mumbling at that point. And then he hung up. Don't do that to yourself. Take these books, enjoy them. I mean, I have all the books right here on the bookshelf, and every time that I look at these books, I smile. And I have, there's all different examples I can give you. I was talking to a guy, and he says, I got like 6 or 7 books, and I really don't like to read that much. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Are the books right there right now? He says, yeah. He says, they're on my bookshelf right here. I said, and do you look at them every day? Oh, yeah, I look at the books all the time. What's your feeling when you look at them? He says, what do you do? I said, what do you feel when you look at these books? Do you see them as joy? And do you smile? Do you see them as knowledge? Or do you see them like man, I'm spending all this money on these books, and these books ain't doing anything for me. I said, is it more like that, or is it more positive? No, he says, it's more like that. I said, well, why? And he couldn't answer me. I said, why are you buying them if you're not going to use them? You know, knowledge is power, is the old saying, but it isn't power at all if you don't use the knowledge. We have to start using this knowledge, and we can all do that. Because believe me, you heard a million people used to say this all the time. If I can do this, anyone can, and I mean that with all my heart. Every ounce of energy and every piece of my fiber, I mean that. If I can do this, a man who stutters can do this and talk to people every day on the phone or either on these calls and stand up in front of hundreds of people at a summit, then anyone can do this. Because I was determined to do this to save my own life. And that's what we all can do. And if we all did that, what do you think NeoThink would be today? Wow. Think about that for a second. So that's why, even if you're not going to start a business, it's important to learn the business. Learn your life. Make it a business. And if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will then. Because it's your life. And you came here for a reason. And always go back to the reasons or reason why you start spending this enormous amount of money that we're spending on books. And I asked this guy today, who started buying them back in the 90s, I said, why did you buy the first book? I can't remember. I mean, imagine that. He bought all these books, and he's complaining about them, but yet he never used them. And now he couldn't even remember why. I said, why'd you buy any of them? Oh, because they said so. I said, well, you really didn't learn anything then, did you? Well, what do you mean by that? I said, you're supposed to be a self-leader. That's what this whole thing's about, being a self-leader. Not just by following what Mark writes in these letters and say, you know, you got to buy the book. Oh, I got to buy them. Why would you buy something if you're not going to use it? You wouldn't do that anywhere else in your life. So take all this, please, and think about it tonight. And think about where you want to go with your life. It doesn't have to be business. Run it like that. And you'll get so much more rewards out of this, and you'll feel so much better about yourself. And you'll walk around with confidence, and you hold your head up high a little bit. Because when you walk into a room, and the people don't look at you and say, that guy knows something that I don't know. And that's how everybody should look at you that way. What's their secret? Why are they having that smile on their face all day? Every time I see that guy or that couple, every time I see them, they're always smiling. I like to be like that. Because everybody wants to be like that. Everybody wants to be successful. But they don't put the hard work into it. But this is what NeoThink's about, is putting the hard work into it, but then you do get the rewards. Well, at this point, wow, I didn't realize how late it was. Let's do the healing list. We got to go. But just remember what I said, and hopefully that helps.